Hello everyone, welcome back to Mark Anthony's Music Picks, episode 67. I took a couple of weeks off. Unfortunately, I had a death in the family. My grandfather passed away last week or a week and a half ago. So it's been kind of tough. I haven't really been listening to music as much. Like, obviously, when you experience a death in the family, you kind of lose interest in things and you certainly lose your motivation. But I'm starting to feel a little bit better. So anyways, I wanted to come back and finish off an episode that I actually started probably 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. I started prepping for this episode and I was just kind of waiting for a chance to deliver it. So today I'm going to talk about Moritz Von Oswald, who is considered by many to be one of like the biggest dub and dub techno pioneers in the entire electronic music scene. Especially amongst people that are in their 40s and 50s, people that grew up with names like Rhythm and Sound, Quadrant, Basic Channel. He's considered like almost like a dub god of some sorts, but rightfully so because he's really talented and his production techniques are somewhat shrouded in mystery. I don't know if you guys ever went and tried to watch the Red Bull interview with him, but it actually is one of the more painful Red Bull interviews that I've ever seen, where they sit down with the guy for like an hour, hour and a half and try to talk music, because it just seemed like to Moritz, he either didn't want to give up his secrets or he just couldn't articulate his production process. But I'm thinking it was more of the former, where it's just like maybe he was kind of guarding what he considers to be sacred tricks and tactics for making music. When it comes to his music, especially if you listen to the old Maurizio series like M1, M4, M5, M6, M7, if you listen to the Round series where it's rounds 1 through 5, there's a cleanliness to the productions that a lot of producers are not able to imitate. Specifically, if you listen to the bass line in tracks like M7 on the B side, just listen to how deep and crisp the bass is. It's basically like the perfect bass line. And not only that, but it's deep, but it's also very much isolated from the rest of the tracks, so that none of the elements are like overlapping on the frequency spectrum and making it sound muddy or cluttered. There's just tons of empty room to where you could, add more elements to it, but he chose not to. And I think that's some of the genius of his production. So today, because Moritz's catalog is so big, I was trying to figure out like a theme that I could apply to this episode. And I'm going to just for today, stick to my top 5 favorite Moritz Von Oswald remixes that came out. Not original productions, but remixes. Specifically, there's a golden era, in my opinion, which is from 2007 to 2010, where he was choosing tracks to remix and remixing, and for whatever reason, the formula that he had going on during that period was really just spot on. And the records that came out that I bought from that period, I would never sell. Like, they're a staple in my collection. They're on the top shelf, and they just sit there. So the first one I want to review for you is one that came out way early, and this is something that's way ahead of its time and has just continued to age really well, and you can't tell that this came out in 1994. This is Paperclip, people, and the track is called Remake, and the remix is by Basic Channel. Now, Basic Channel is Mark Ernestus and Moritz Von Oswald. The reason that this track is so unique is out of his catalog is, number one, because of how slow it is. It's somewhere around 105 to 110 beats per minute. It's a techno track, and they did a great job of, like I said, keeping space in the track. There's a kick drum in here, but it's kind of muted. And there's also like a low rolling sub bass, which is signature for all of Moritz's tracks. And you also have some metallic percussion, just kind of like grinding in the background, just like a grindy, like chinky sounding percussion that's just like, oh man, that's really good, and just got this like raw sound to it. It's about 6 or 7 minutes long, and this is probably my favorite Basic Channel production of all time. I just love it, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Just super minimal, clean stuff. The next track I'm going to review for you is, I think, a sleeper, right? If you go and look at this thing on Discogs, yeah, there's like 300 or 400 owners, along with, millions of other techno tracks that are on Discogs, but nobody wrote any reviews for this. This is, oh man, I'm going to butcher this name. Two Wrong Wohungs. Two Wrong Wohungs. This is the artist name here, if you guys can see that. And the track is called Ikter Bin Regan, or something along those lines. And Moritz came in with like a 10 or 11 minute remix on this. I picked this up originally at an old vinyl shop in Philly. Well, it's old now. Old and defunct. It was called Tequila Sunrise, and I think I got it for $12 back then. I remember where it was sitting on the wall, and I was like, oh, Moritz Von Oswald, I'll give that a listen. And the guy, his name was Anthony. He would like take the record from you and play it so that people weren't mishandling his records. And he dropped the needle on it on his nice little like hi-fi that he had in the record shop, and I was like immediately sold. You got really cool stabby elements going on in this. The trademark Moritz Von Oswald bass lines are so clean and mellow. I just love this, and I feel like it's totally underrated and something that if you listen to it, like if you love dub techno at all, if you like to sit and chill, if you just want to relax and unwind, this is like 5 stars. It's perfect. And my next record that I'm going to review for you guys is actually on Loco Dice's label. Loco Dice has, I think it's still active. He has a label called Desolate. Okay, and he had an artist called Sibo do a track called Watamu Beach. And Moritz Von Oswald did his rework on the B-side. This is really interesting. This came out in 2008, and I kind of missed it. I discovered it in 2010 in a Richie Houghton mix where he was using this track and layering it. You know, Richie Houghton's always messing with something in terms of layering. He's never just playing one track. And he dropped Watamu Beach, and I think the reason that it was an easy target for Richie to mix over is because the kick drums in this are only on the 2 and the 4, so it skips the 1 and the 3. And because of that, you basically have a track with dub techno elements and techno elements, and not really a broken beat, but a more mellow beat because the kick is alternating and it's only hitting on the 2 and the 4. If you go and look on Discogs, a lot of reviews for this one, and for me, I like to pitch this down. It sounds a little bit rushed at the original tempo, so I'll take this to maybe -4 or 5 or 6 and just let it play that way, because to me it just feels like a better record that way. But either way, really classy stuff, and I think you guys would be well served to add this one into your catalog. And here, this is another interesting one. If you guys remember, in 2008, Moritz Von Oswald paired up with Carl Craig, and he did a project called Recomposed, where I think Moritz at some point started to get a little bit bored with producing dub techno, and he wanted to just branch out. Like, if you notice now, he makes some ambient and drone tracks. He did a track for Cocoon that was a little bit more club oriented. He pairs up sometimes with Juan Atkins for those projects like the Borderland project. When he paired up with Carl Craig, he did like modern classical, I think is what you would call it. And there was a double pack on Deutsche Grammophon that was Carl Craig and Moritz Von Oswald just composing together. And I will say that this isn't the double pack. The double pack has like really thick, huge plates. Like some of the most sturdy, like unwarpable records that I've ever seen are part of that project. So if you ever want something like really interesting from Carl Craig and Moritz to sit down and listen to when you're just like, you don't really feel like just listening to like club music, I would highly recommend that. There's also another Remix 12 that came out with the, like similar labeling, where it was Ricardo Villalobos and Carl Craig laying down remixes of Recomposed. That's awesome. And here, this little bonus 10-inch came out, and it's Francois Kevorkian, who's a New York producer, on the A side, and Moritz Von Oswald on the B side. Moritz's remix on the B-side here is kickless. It's 13 minutes. It includes a lot of the original trumpet, and or maybe the trumpet's not in there, but there's like woodwinds that are coming in there, and it does have like a dub bass line. I hope you guys really enjoy this. This is like an alternate take on the album with dub influences mixed with modern classical. And you can see here that it's a 10-inch. I generally try to avoid 10-inch vinyls when I can, because like they just sort of get lost in the pile. I've never really had an affinity for 10-inch. And they tend to be thinner. In this case, though, I can reassure you that this thing is thick. So that this, as far as 10-inch vinyl goes, this thing is no joke. And this isn't gonna warp on you. Really, really classy pressing here, like top notch, absolutely top notch. And my fifth and final pick is one that came out on Honest John's. Honest John's is a label. I'm really appreciative of that label. Number one, they release a lot of music, and when they do pressings, they do plenty. There are Honest John's records with multiple thousands of owners on Discogs, and it's because they just flood the market with it, right? So Honest John's records are not hard to get. And I think for that reason, maybe some people overlook them because there's not a scarcity factor at play. Like, they're just more of like a staple. Here, Tony Allen did a track called Olé, and Moritz Von Oswald did the remix for it. Now, as far as like the most pure tracks in this episode, I would say that this is the most dub influenced and the purest dub/dub techno production out of anything that I presented to you today. It's maybe 11 or 12 minutes. And it's just a really nice journey. If you like tribal drums, if you like real percussion, if you like Tony Allen's voice, like it all comes together here. And not only, it's not just 12 minutes of straight, just kind of drawn out loopiness. There's a really nice atmospheric breakdown. And coming out of that breakdown, Tony Allen just lets it rip. And that's all I have for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoy this. I might come back and try to touch on some of the original Rhythm and Sound / Maurizio Quadrant productions, but I almost feel like they're too sacred for me to touch, and I don't want to kind of step on other people's toes and basically come back and try to review something that I wasn't really there for. So I'm gonna stick to the more modern remixes for now. Maybe if I'm feeling more daring later, I'll come back and get some of those old school Moritz productions. So Moritz, if you ever get to see this video, I hope you enjoy it. I really enjoy your productions, and I think you're a musical mastermind. I look forward to everything that you produce. Take care, guys. Peace.